In an impassioned and defiant televised address to the Ukrainian nation, President Volodymyr Zelensky has unequivocally rejected the conceptual framework of the peace plan being advanced by United States President Donald Trump ahead of his scheduled summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Speaking from the presidential office in Kyiv, with the Ukrainian flag standing starkly behind him, Zelensky delivered a message of unyielding resolve, directly confronting the notion that Ukraine's sovereign territory could be used as a bargaining chip in a superpower negotiation. His speech, broadcast on all national channels, amounted to a preemptive repudiation of any agreement that might emerge from the Alaskan talks, drawing a firm red line that places his government on a direct collision course with the White House. Ukraine is not a line on a map. Ukraine is not a piece of property to be traded or sold, Zelensky stated, his voice steady but filled with emotions. Our borders are written in the blood of our heroes. Our sovereignty is the sacred right of people. To anyone who thinks they can decide our fate in a faraway room without us, I have one clear answer: never. The address was a direct and personal rebuke to President Trump, signaling that any peace deal brokered without Ukrainian consent would be considered illegitimate and void by Kyiv. The foundations of Zelensky's rejection are rooted in the fundamental principle of Ukrainian statehood and the immense human cost of the war. The Ukrainian constitution explicitly states that the territory of Ukraine within its existing border is integral and inviolable, making it legally impossible for any president to formally cede land. Politically and morally, such a move is considered unthinkable. Any Ukrainian leader who agreed to surrender the Donbas or formally recognize Russia's annexation of Crimea would be instantly branded a traitor by a population that has sacrificed hundreds of thousands of lives to defend that very land. In his address, Zelensky spoke directly to this sacrifice, as the mother who lost her son in Bakhmut if she is willing to trade his memory for false peace, as the soldier who lost his legs in Robotyne if his fight was for nothing, he declared. We will not dishonor their memory by surrendering what they died to protect. This stance has solidified a near universal consensus within Ukrainian society. Even Zelensky's harshest domestic critics have rallied behind him on this issue, understanding that territorial integrity is a point on which there can be no compromise. The rejection is therefore not merely a political calculation, but a reflection of a deep-seated national conviction that to surrender land would be to validate Russia's aggression and render the entire national defense effort meaningless. Kyiv's diplomatic corps, led by Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba, immediately moved to translate Zelensky's defiant words into official international policy. In an emergency press conference for foreign media, Kuleba condemned the planned bilateral summit in Alaska as a dangerous departure from established international norms. For years, our partners have stood by the principle of nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. To abandon this principle now is to reward the aggressor and to undermine the entire international legal order, Kuleba stated. He announced that he had instructed Ukraine's ambassador in all allied capitals to convey Kyiv's formal rejections of any peace process that exclude Ukrainian participation and that entertain the possibility of territorial concessions. Kuleba emphasized that the only acceptable peace plan is the one previously advanced by Ukraine, which calls for the complete withdrawal of all Russian troops from the internationally recognized border of Ukraine as of 1991. The prosecution of Russian war criminals and reparations for the immense damage inflicted upon the country. Peace cannot be an appeasement, he concluded. True peace can only come with the full restoration of justice and the complete liberation of our land. The forceful rejection from Kyiv was met with a mix of irritation and dismissiveness in Washington. President Donald Trump responded to Zelensky's speech on his social media platform, framing the Ukrainian leader's stance as an obstacle to ending the conflict. Some people just love war, President Trump posted. We are trying to get a deal done to save lives, and all they can do is complain. Very ungrateful. The talk will go on. This sentiment was echoed in a more diplomatic but equally firm tone by Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Speaking to reporters at the State Department, Rubio expressed his disappointment with the Ukrainian position. The president is committed to ending this terrible war, Rubio said. We believe it is time for realism. The reality on the ground have changed, and pretending otherwise helped no one. The United States cannot and will not underwrite an endless conflict with no clear path to victory. The administration's message is clear. The U.S. has determined that a negotiated settlement is the only viable path forward, and it intends to pursue that path with or without Kyiv's immediate cooperation. There is a palpable sense within the White House that Ukraine is being presented with a final opportunity to secure a deal with American backing, and that rejecting it is a strategic error Kyiv will come to regret. This public clash has placed European nations in an extremely awkward and divided position. Nations on NATO's eastern flank, particularly Poland and the Baltic states, have privately and, in some cases, publicly expressed strong support for Zelensky's position. They share Kyiv's deep-seated fear that a U.S.-Russia deal struck over their heads would set a dangerous precedent, greenlighting territorial revisionism and signaling a weakening of the American security commitment to the entire region. An unnamed senior Polish official was quoted in a European media outlet as saying, "We stand with Kyiv. A peace that rewards aggression is not peace. It is merely an armistice before the next war." In contrast, governments in Western Europe, while publicly reiterating their support for Ukraine's sovereignty, are privately expressing deep anxiety. They fear being caught in the middle of a diplomatic feud between Washington and Kyiv, and many leaders are desperate for the war to end due to its ongoing economic and social costs. There is a growing sentiment in some Western European capitals that Zelensky should show more flexibility and engage with the American proposal, even if it is painful. This split reaction highlights the fracturing of the Western coalition, a development that Moscow is undoubtedly observing with satisfaction. The unspoken element behind Washington's push for a deal is the reality of dwindling military support. The Trump administration has made it clear that the current level of aid is unsustainable, and there is a strong implication that a rejection of its diplomatic track could lead to a complete halt in weapons shipments. This gives President Trump immense leverage. Secretary of Defense Peter Hegseth articulated the grim military calculus in a recent press briefing at the Pentagon. Without directly referencing the peace plan, Hegseth described the situation on the front line, particularly around the collapsing Pokrovsk sector, as extremely challenging for Ukrainian force. There is a significant and growing disparity in manpower and firepower, Hegseth stated. Sustaining a high-intensity defense under this condition is an exceptionally difficult proposition over the long term. His sober assessment served as a veiled warning. Ukraine may not have the military capacity to continue rejecting a political settlement indefinitely. The message from the Pentagon, whether intended or not, is that Ukrainian defiance has a time limit dictated by the number of shells in its inventory and the number of soldiers it can field. Despite the immense external pressure and the dire situation on the battlefield, Zelensky's defiant stance has resonated powerfully at home. His rejection of the Trump plan has been met with overwhelming support from the Ukrainian public, who viewed the prospect of surrendering territory as a national humiliation. Recent polling indicates that over 90% of Ukrainians are unwilling to accept any peace deal that involved ceding land to Russia. The speech has provided a moment of clarity and unity, temporarily silencing the domestic political squabbles that have recently emerged. It has reinforced Zelensky's role as a wartime leader, embodying the nation's will to resist. This groundswell of popular support gives him a powerful domestic mandate to continue his standoff with Washington, but it also boxes him in, making any future compromise on territory politically suicidal. He is now a leader buoyed by the resolute will of his people, but isolated from the one ally with the power to ensure his country's survival. This sets the stage for the Alaska summit to proceed under a dark cloud of controversy, a meeting between two leaders to decide the fate of a third nation that has already screamed its rejection to the world. Many of my listeners, like 70%, haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, and so many of you don't even know that you haven't subscribed, and that is actually what makes the show going. It's almost like you're making a donation to the show, so that's why I ask again and again, because It enables us to grow and grow and grow. And we're going for the long haul here. And listen, if this is your first time listening to World Global Conflict, you don't have to subscribe. You guys, your first one's on me. But if you have watched this show before, it's like you are freeloader now. So all I would ask you is if you have seen this show before and you like it, help me. Help my team here. Hit that subscribe and like button now. And we will continue to build the show for you. That I swear. Thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. That's all for me for today. I will see you soon. Bye for now.